This episode is brought to you by the Toyota Grand Highlander. Life's journey brings constant change filled with exciting surprises and grand challenges. And with its spaciousness, power, and style, the Toyota Grand Highlander is more than a vehicle. It's your partner in embracing all life throws at you. From the spacious adult-sized third row to seating for up to 8 passengers, the Toyota Grand Highlander is up for every grand challenge. Learn more at toyota.com/Grand Highlander. Toyota, let's go places.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
Achtung Millwall podcast supports the Lions Food Hub, dear listeners, and you can do too by getting yourself an Achtung Millwall t-shirt from noonelikes.co.uk, also known as Nolu Clothing. They've got a wonderful Achtung Millwall t-shirt on there for £15. At least £8 of each sale goes to support the Lions Food Hub, which does fantastic work for families in and around the South East 16 area. Show your allegiances on the podcast front, dear listeners, by getting yourself an Achtung Millwall t-shirt, and by doing that, you'll support the wonderful, the brilliant Lions Food Hub. noonelikes.co.uk, Achtung Millwall t-shirt, £15. Check it out.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello dear listeners, welcome to, what shall we call this edition of Achtung Millwall? Achtung not Millwall, I suppose would be a good choice of words. It's like a tapas bar of bits and pieces. There's no Millwall this week, of course, international break, the modern curse of football, isn't it? International break weekend. But I thought I'd do a special edition of bits and pieces, and even just looking through the current websites, the News at Den and London News Online, both of which are in the same predicament as shows like this, dear listeners. There's nothing much to talk about without Millwall and their ups and downs. So I'm just having a quick look at the South London Press, London News Online, as it is in reality. Lead story as I'm looking at it today, this is Thursday, I'm recording these words to you, is a story on Aaron Connolly, who I think is one of the most skillful and insightful players we've got. But coach Alex Neil is hoping that Aaron Connolly can make an impact in the remaining championship matches, especially with Femi Aziz at sideline. But consistency is key, says Alex Neil. Consistency is key. Aaron arrived with some fairly well-publicised lifestyle issues, dear listeners. Now, I really, really don't know whether that's behind the inconsistency that Alex Neil is referring to. But it was just quoting here by Alex. There's one game where he pulled out of his back, and that was the only game from memory that he had any sort of ailment, said Neil, when asked by the South London Press about the reduction in Connolly's involvement recently. Now, none of us know what goes on behind closed doors, as Charlie Rich once sang, kids. But the fact that if he's fit, and certainly not injured, as Alex Neil is saying there, then it does strike me as remarkable that a very talented player who every time I've seen him strikes me of his quality and his touch is not involved. So my imagination can run away with me. That's all I'm going to say on that, dear listeners. Alex is hoping that Aaron will feature in more of the remaining games. It's like with any player, says Alex, consistency is key. You've got to affect games, get assists and get goals. I'm sure Aaron will be saying, if I can get on the pitch, I can do that more. But the fact is, I can't keep 25 players happy every week. So I've got to ultimately pick what I think is going to give us the best chance of winning the game. And the fact that Aaron Connolly is not involved strikes me as unusual. Let's just put it there. So it'll be great to see Connolly more involved. I've been really impressed with him. But what lies behind the team choices, only Alex, Neil and the staff know. So there we are. That's the lead story on the South London Press. A few other little bits and pieces here. We've got the pre-season plans to go overseas for a training camp. Last season, South London's Millwall went out to Spain, played 2 friendlies at the Pinatar Arena against Nottingham Forest and Real Murcia. Alex Neil's confirmed that preparations are already being made for the trip away before the 25-26 campaign. This has been finalised now, says the Scot. There wasn't anything in place when he came in, but we have a couple of agents, not football ones, who are agents for pre-season travel agents, I guess. It won't be UK based, and I believe there will be access for fans to come. So those who like that kind of thing, travelling away for pre-season in the Spanish sun, Portuguese sun, I don't know where they're going to go. Used to go to Ireland, didn't they? It might be the Irish sun. But yeah, sounds like the club are actually looking into that. So, keep tabs on it. If that's your kind of thing, dear listeners. A few other stories here. Macaulay Langstaff steps up his return from injury. Macaulay, not really been a success. It'd be nice to see him get something out of the season, if it can be done. It's quite hard to see him fitting in to the team as it's currently constituted, other than via injury. So there is a chance, I suppose, to see him. He came to us as a finisher with quite a reputation in non-league and lower division football. But as with so many players, it's a big step up, isn't it, into the Championship. Femi Aziz, as this story again repeats, is injured at the moment, as is Camille Negley is a little bit away. George Honeyman's making decent progress. So Macaulay is back on the grass. There it is. Macca is back on the grass, not the smoking kind. He's starting to do a bit more, says Lions head coach. I'm hoping we get a week under his belt. So it's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Anyway, we'll see. Macaulay Langstaff. It wouldn't surprise me if he's one of the players that have moved on come summertime. I don't like to say that, but football is a ruthless business, dear listeners. And if you come in as a goal-scoring, gun for hire from the lower divisions, and then you find that your revolver has actually got like a bendy bit at the end and shoot yourself half the time. I'm using cartoon metaphors here. Then unfortunately that's the way it goes. Anyway, we'll see. Wish Macaulay Langstaff all the best for whatever remains of his Millwall career, and we'll see where the summertime takes us all, dear listeners. Big story, of course, with Billy Mitchell is saying here, the big story, we've got nothing left to lose in our press for the playoff spots. Is that possible? It is possible. We need to start winning. We've got 8 games left, dear listeners, and we probably need to win at least 5, 6, 7 of them, depending on other results. It's possible. Anything's possible in this world. I don't know if I'd want to put my mortgage on us doing that, but certainly, as Billy says here, we have nothing to lose, so we can go into these kinds of games. Sunderland away on Saturday is going to be a big one. If we can't get a result there, then I really am starting to think that it goes from possible to impossible. But as Billy says, we've got nothing to lose, so why not? What else is? The South London Press podcast. It's really good. I don't know if you've listened to it, dear listeners. The Rich Corley and is it Ed Boyden, I think is his name? He's kind of a oppo on the staff of the South London Press. Rich Corley covers Millwall, Charlton. Ed, I think, covers Wimbledon, Crystal Palace. But it's a really nice little football podcast. A lot of insight and chat about all the 4 clubs of South London, including Bromley House. I suppose you'd say 5 clubs. I really enjoy it. I'm a regular listener. I recommend you be a listener to it too. Sometimes I'll tune out of the Palace and the Charlton stuff. Sometimes if I'm out, exercising, whatever, if I'm walking, I'll have a listen just to see how the others are getting on. But I do recommend it. It's well worth a listen. So that's the South London Press Football Podcast. It took a bit of a break, but it's come back again. I'm glad to see it make a comeback. So that's the South London Press. Like I say, all of the media outlets are scratching around to make stories out of very little, little fare. The summertime is a really tough time for the football news websites, isn't it? But anyway, that's looming at the end of the month. We're into the last month and almost of the season now. So I'm just having a quick look at the News at Den. News at Den's gone down the kind of paywall route. And I get why. I'm not knocking anyone that is looking to make some money and make a living, perhaps, out of journalism, sports journalism. You've got to pay for what you get. There's so many people online now, and I even include myself, that want it all for nothing, and you don't make any money that way, and you can't continue. So the News at Den podcast is behind their paywall. It doesn't cost you an awful lot to subscribe to the News at Den. They have like a subscription model. I'm not subscribing to it, and the reason I'm doing that, I suppose, is a fairly I don't know if it's a cheapskate move on my part. I do subscribe to Millwall TV, which is a £5 a month, and I think I'm probably just at the limit of what I want to subscribe to. I'll probably spend more than that on other stuff. So there's a deep vein of hypocrisy in that last statement, dear listeners. But yeah, they have a podcast out. Lions all-time top 10 internationals, discussions on 3 out-of-contract defenders. I'm just looking at the lead paragraph on the News at Den Southwark News website. Interview with Luke Cundall, why he joined Millwall, what he's been fined for this season. Incidentally, coming up later in this edition, we did a quite a nice interview. The 4 leading podcasts, it sounds a bit poncy when you say that. That's this one, of course, Achtung Millwall. There was Micky from that Millwall podcast. There was Dan from Lions TV. And Joe from Chats with Chaps. I think they were the biggest followings, and that's how the club have come up with this model to have like a press conference every so often with a figure at the club. And today's figure was Jake Cooper. And it's a nice interview. I'm going to stick it on the end of this little tapas bar edition that I'm doing. But one aspect of football that's never occurred to me in all the 50 plus years that I've been going to Millwall or watching football, I suppose you'd call it. And Byron Webster has mentioned this a few times, and I've done the Wall Talk show for the club, is that the captain of the club is expected to sort out tickets for players that need for family and friends, arranging for tickets for people and organising the fine system for breaches of discipline. Apparently that's a captain's duty in conjunction with the manager, head coach, whatever you want to call it. But the arranging of tickets is something that seems so outside what I might have expected the world of football to be about. I don't know, maybe it makes no sense to say that, I don't know. But apparently arranging tickets is a big deal, a big part of the job of being club captain. So I'm not sure I'd fancy that. I'd be no good at that. I'd be getting you all the wrong tickets and, not enough or too many, all that kind of thing. Interview here with, also on News at Den, with Joe Bryan, who says that Alex Neil is probably up there with some of the best managers that he's worked with, which is some statement, isn't it? Given that he's got quite a list of players that managers that he's worked with over the course of his career. Joe Bryan, Lucien Favre, Fulham, Marco Silva, Scott Parker, and Claudio Ranieri. But he considers Alex Neil, to be one of the best that he's played for. Now, obviously he's playing for him at the moment, so it'd be a silly boy to talk him down. But that's quite a tribute, given the level of those names: Favre, Silva, Parker, Ranieri, and he's saying he's one of the best. So I've got to say, and I made this point to Cooper earlier on, that I do think that there's a general sense of improvement about the club since Alex Neil's come in. I think we're aiming higher, listeners. Do you agree with that? Do you think we're aiming higher in terms of football and quality of personnel? I do, and I'm not just saying that because I'm all kind of fluffy and all and looking for the nice things, but I do think we're aiming to play a better quality of football, and it's great to see it. Another interview here, Alex Neil talking about improvements to Calmont Road training ground and why he feels it's an exciting time to be a Millwall fan. This is Will Scott of the News at Den, Southwark News, talking about the improvements that Mark Fairbrother, our Chief Operating Officer, mentioned in his interview, which is worth a watch, listeners. On the official club site, he talks about the direction of the club and the financial situation, the 19.4 million that we're down, that's having to be picked up by the Berylson family, James Berylson in particular. But he did mention the upgrades to facilities at Calmont Road and at the Den. Don't know the details. I don't know what kind of upgrades or what's going to be involved in that. But one of the big criticisms, I think, of Calmont Road traditionally is, we didn't own it, and that has been rectified. That's been bought now back. If you've cast any of the older listeners, cast their minds back to the Peter de Savary era back in the mid-2000s, we sold it, didn't we? I think we were in financial shtuck at the time, and we sold it to one of the colleges. I remember him saying it was either one of the Oxford or Cambridge colleges that were looking to diversify their assets. There's a phrase that I always hated to hear, but anyway, that's what they did. They bought it. We rented it back, so a stream of income. So we went from owning it, paying nothing, to renting it back in return for a lump that probably kept us alive at the time. But we have now turned that around. We've bought the training ground back again. I get a sense that the move to Brands Hatch is largely now, if not on the back burner, it's almost fell off the back of the cooker, which is no bad thing, in my opinion. I was never really convinced about that whole move out to northwest Kent personally. Why? Seemed like a long way away, I suppose, from the ground. Whereas Calmont Road is in touch with the Den. This is all emotional reasoning, isn't it? In touch with the Den, as in Downham, which seems like a Millwall type area, rather than the leafy lanes of Crocken Hill and Brands Hatch and Southern Dartford. Improvements to the ground, the training ground, which are all to the good. It's got to be a part of the long-term plan. Two other stories actually. Ray Spangura Williams has made his debut for the English Elite League squad. Is that like an under-20? Yeah, and formerly the under-20s. Now called the Elite League squad, made his international debut coming on from Romain Esse, strangely. That's got to be one of the odder coincidences of Millwall history. And the story here just outlines Race's journey from Tooting and Mitcham, rejections as a kid, Tooting and Mitcham, on to coming into the Mill scene, this year, basically against Dagenham Redbridge and so on. So, yeah, it's a nice story. Mihailo Ivanovic played for the Serbian under-21s. Dan Kelly started for the Scottish under-21s, and Jules Saville featured in a 5-1 shellacking for Northern Ireland in Sweden. So there's the international news. So that's the News at Den's roundup. You can have a look at this yourself. As I say, I'm filling in, and this is a filler show, isn't it? Reading out somebody else's work. But I personally really like the quality of both sites, actually. I like the Southwark News at Den, and I like London News Online. I probably tend to favour London News Online. I can't really give you an adequate reason why. I get a sense that the Southwark News at Den probably favours a younger audience. Could be wrong. No real reason for me to say that. Whereas the the South London Press, feels more like my kind of scene, 60 plus years old that I am. Don't know, unless that's a load of old tosh. I might cut that bit out, because I'm not sure that will stand up to close scrutiny, that last statement. But hey, you don't come on this show looking for close scrutinised statements, dear listeners, do you?
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, because Clear the Rack is on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through Monday, find incredible deals on Wear Now styles. On sale for even less at Nordstrom Rack. Take an extra 25% off red tag clearance throughout the store from brands like Adidas, Marc Jacobs, Steve Madden, and more. All sales final. The best stuff goes fast. So shop this sale at Nordstrom Rack today. Please see NordstromRack.com or ask a store associate for details.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Achtung, Millwall.
Now then, just to move us along, I actually did a really nice event on Saturday, last Saturday. This was the midpoint of the international break, and I'm going to stick a link in the show notes for this because it was a guided walk around the Isle of Dogs featuring visits to each of the main locations from the early days, the Victorian era days of Millwall FC, Millwall Rovers, Millwall Athletic, and then finally, in due course, Millwall Football Club. Run by two Millwall fans. Mike George is a fairly well-known figure, I think. He runs a Facebook group called Out of the Blue. He's also, as I was just looking at his little biog here, in a very nice little leaflet that the Chaps have put together here. Mike George, former musician, stand-up comic, illustrator and T-shirt printer. He's also an internet radio presenter, man of many parts, and a Millwall fan since the late 60s. He used to do a fanzine, which was also called Out of the Blue, I think. Tales from Senegal Fields. So Mike is one part of the duo that runs the walk. The other one is Rob Woodford, who's a regular contributor to our voicemail show. So big shout out to Rob. He's a designer of the tour. He's a former London taxi driver, and he is a proper accredited London tour guide. And it's done really well, listeners. I can recommend this walk. They do it every time there's an international break. So I think the next one, Rob said, is in October. I think that'll be Internationals weekend. And as I say, he's put an Eventbrite link up. I can really recommend this. You start out at a cafe, the Docklands Cafe, I think it's called, near West Ferry, or for those that know the Isle of Dogs. It's close by to where the London, the Docklands, Museum of London, Docklands, is located. And there was about 25 of us, I think. I didn't count on the walk. Really nicely, nicely organised. As I say, you start out from the cafe, walk past the Museum of London, Docklands, take a pause on what once was called Blood Alley, which is due to the sacking of the sacks from the ships that moored at the Millwall docks. And there's always a quite contrast, I find, whenever you do anything historically related to Millwall Football Club and its industrialised origins, the contrast between then and now, because obviously now Canary Wharf, once a white elephant as it was cast in the 1980s when it was first constructed on the site of the old docks, is now this kind of glittering Manhattan-style financial global centre. So the contrast between the men that once have had their skin ripped to shreds with blood literally flowing on the cobbles and the big money that swirls around Canary Wharf is a fascinating one. I don't know why, but I find those kinds of counterpoints deeply fascinating. But yeah, so Mike and Rob are the tour guides. The name of the walk is called the Millwall History and Heritage Tour. And as they do a nice little leaflet, booklet, it explores the first 25 years of Millwall Football Club, 1885, of course, from formation to 1910. The first point of interest really is the site of the former Morton's factory, which sits on East Ferry Road. I'm just going to get my Google map out so I can talk you through the locations, listeners. Now, this is not a reason not to go on it at the expense of this. It's actually a reason to go on it because you're going to be so infused by what I'm going to tell you about it. Junction of Cuba Street and East Ferry Road. is the site of what was once Morton's canning factory, and Morton's being a food canning, tin smithing, and production of food for the ships and army locations. Some really nice detail from the boys at this point. Nowadays, there is a block of probably highly expensive, almost certainly highly expensive flats called Cascades, and that sits on the site of the actual location of Morton's factory, which I think went out of business in the 1940s, or it relocated, I should say. It didn't go out of business, far from it. It relocated from the island off to Lowestoft, I think Mike said. And Mike has done some internet research. The company Morton's, as it was constituted, eventually became bought by an Indian firm. But the name Morton's apparently is still in existence, trading in India. So you can still get yourself some Morton's baked beans if you're ever in the subcontinent. And he showed a couple of products, modern day products I'm talking about, with Morton's logo on it. So that's kind of fascinating. There is, set in the pavement at Cuba Street / East Ferry Road, a kind of a pavement plaque commemorating the fact that Mill Rovers began there. So now I don't know if anyone listening to this show lives or works in the area. Work is probably more likely perhaps, but if you're ever in the area, these are locations that are dead easy to walk around and find. And this is literally where Millwall Football Club comes from. The workers, the Scottish-owned company, Morton's, hence the dark blue shirts, who formed the football club. First point of call after that, we go past a couple of old pubs, but we do stop off at Millwall Dock Road, which is now a small housing estate. And the boys do a nice little... you can pose and have your photos taken there with a mock plaque commemorating the fact that this was the starting point of one of football's great names, Millwall FC. And you can go and have your picture taken. It's made out of paper. There's not a real one there, unfortunately. There should be, but then they get nicked, don't they, as we found. You can stand and have your photo taken. We had a good mix of fans from all over the world. One chap I was talking to from Texas, Millwall expat, now lives in Texas, and there are people from various locations. Then we moved on from Mill Dock Road onto the site of Cross Harbour, the Asda. This is actually, I think it's the second ground, the Asda. This would be the athletic ground. Which is where modern day Asda is located, near to the George pub, which has been rebuilt following a bit of a contretemps with one Adolf Hitler during the Second World War. The old George pub, which was a headquarters of Millwall Football Club, has been rebuilt, but it's still there. The George still exists. Asda shows no sign whatsoever that this was once the athletic ground, which held about 20,000, I think Rob said. This is now just literally an Asda supermarket and car park. So, but to stand there is an odd feeling. To feel that this was once the location for, the early days of our club. We were quite a successful side, the Lions of the South, and Neil Fisler and I have done quite a few history shows over time. And it's quite a weird feeling that, the team that formed the Southern League, that's us, that won it twice, major achievement before the First World War, got to the FA Cup semi-final twice, played on this location, now Asda and the Britannia Pharmacy. No sign of it whatsoever there, nothing to mark it, other than the fact that this tour... and the likes of shows like this, and everyone that goes past it will remember it in their heads, and that's probably the best memorial of the lot. We then walk on from the Asda at Cross Harbour, for those that know the island. We go past Mud Chute, or Shit Chute, I think I like that one. That was the romanticised name for the Dockland station, Mud Chute. Apparently, what was actually shot out of this kind of funnel effect thing was more like shit than mud. One of the Corinthian players that played on the island at the time always commented on the strange smell that was left on his clothes for weeks afterwards when he went into a tackle. I'll leave you to imagine the kind of conditions that these men worked in, these dockers, hard-edged industrial, a really, really tough area. Docks, casual labour. This is not an easy way to make a living. And football was their bit of escape, their respite from a very tough world, and quite literally a very shitty world. That's the right way to put it. We walk on past Mud Chute onto Millwall Park, which was the last ground before we left the island in 1910. There's no trace there. What you can see there, and there are some pictures in the booklet, actually. I'm just flicking through it as I'm talking to your listeners. They've got some pictures from games played in the various locations. The athletic ground, I see there, a map of the original waste ground, details about the lives of the dockers and the harsh conditions, working conditions that they fought against. But there's also a picture of us playing Everton in the FA Cup in 1903 in what is now Millwall Park, with the arches, a set of railway arches, which are still there. And you can see it in this photograph of of the team playing Everton in the FA Cup that particular year. I think we got past Everton, went out in the semi-finals, which I think was 1903 Sunderland, I think, or Derby, might be Derby. It's really interesting stuff, in my opinion. The tour finishes on the site of the back of the Lord Nelson, which is now called Manchester Grove. There's a small housing estate there at the rear of the pub, the famous pub, the Lord Nelson. And the boys finish with a drink in the Lord Nelson and a small quiz. Like I say, listeners, it's a really nice tour. There's a few quotes here. I love this one. This was from Harry the dog. All we're going for is a good game of football, a good punch up and a good piss up. That's what Millwall's all about, said Harry the dog. Quote. Another one here, this is an unpopular, I remember this bloke, Trevor Hockey, an unpopular Birmingham midfielder, came off second best in a tackle against Harry Cripps. He apologised afterwards. He said, "Sorry about that, mate. I'll help you up," said Harry, who then used one hand to grab Trevor's beard and the other to grab his testicles. I think that might be a bit strong. And sportly threw him back on the pitch from the side of the running track. And finally, one from Tim Kay. If you can play at the Den, said Tim, you can play anywhere. Very, very true. A couple of T-shirts you can buy, a bit of merch. As I say, it finishes in the Lord Nelson. A very, very enjoyable tour. What I would say to anyone who is infirm is it's a fairly old trot. I mean, I clocked up about 3 miles all in, but you're also on your feet for a lot more than that. You're standing at various locations, listening to the great details that Rob and Mike have put in. It's a very well-researched tour. But if you're infirm, or if your mobility is not what it was, you might find it a bit strenuous. That's the only thing I would say. There might be ways around that. You might have family that can move you from spot to spot. I don't know. But I really enjoyed it. So overall about 3 miles. Took about 2 and a bit hours from start through to finish. And obviously you can stay in the pub for as long as you like, as long as they'll serve you. Fully recommend it. Mill Heritage Tour. Rob Woodford, Mike George, 2 great personalities. They're doing the next one in October. I really enjoyed myself, and I'm going to stick a link to buy tickets for their next tour on the show notes for this show. So there we are. So that was my international break, dear listeners. Really looking forward to getting back into the swing of normality again with the Sunderland away fixture. I'm not going to go. I'm going to try and get a stream for that as best I can. But I will be at home to Pompey the week after. Can we do this playoff run, dear listeners? That's going to be the big question. Fingers crossed. Now, I'm going to close out this little smorgasbord of a show for you with an interview that the club set up for the 4 podcasts I mentioned. That Millwall podcast, Lions TV, Chat with Chaps, and obviously my yours truly. I really just want to give a shout out to all the boys that produce this content. That's Micky. Today it was Joe, but it's also Chris from Chats with Chaps, Dan, Lions TV, and all the others that do stuff. We're really, really well served. We get a lot of different types of shows. I include myself, a bit of self-praise here. We get a lot of different types of content, and some will be to some people's taste, others will be to others, and that's fine. But you cannot deny that you get some really good quality fan-based comment, and it's great that the club invited us all on to have a little conversation today with club captain Jake Cooper. I was really pleased to take part in it. I'm going to include the whole audio, so you'll hear my voice, you'll hear the voices of Micky and Joe and Dan. And I hope you enjoy it. It's really, I want to take my hat off to Max McLennan for organising this. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more in the future with them, because this kind of liaison and working with the club is very much the way to go. So stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages with Jake Cooper.
Hi, this is Javon, your Blinds.com design consultant.
Oh, wow. A real person.
Yep. I'm here to help with everything from selecting the perfect window treatments to...
Well, I've got a complicated project.
No problem. I can even help schedule a professional measure and install. We can also send you samples fast and free.
I just might have to do more.
Whatever you need.
So the first room we're looking at is for...
Shop Blinds.com now and get up to 40% off with minimum purchase. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hello, Jake. Nice to meet you, mate. I'm Nick. I do Achtung Millwall. Good to talk to you. Always admired your play. Funny enough, it's not really a question, Max. It's just a statement, really, to start. You're actually, I don't know if you know, to keep track of this stuff, Jake, but you're actually in the top 7 of all-time Millwall appearances now, which is kind of incredible, isn't it? You're just behind Alan Dunn, Alan McCleary, and Neil Harris in the league total of appearances. 369 starts and 9 as a substitute, 29 goals. That's quite amazing.
Yeah, I'm chasing down Barry Kitchener's record.
You are. He's at the top of the pile. You've got a way to go.
I'll tell Jimmy that I want a pub at the back of the ground with the Cooper's arms. And there'll be a picture of me arm against Everton scoring the goal.
Two things strike me, Jake. You don't get injured much, do you? You don't get many injuries, touch wood, and fingers crossed. Also, you don't draw many red cards. I found one red card. I wondered if you knew or if you can remember where that red card was and what circumstances it was.
I've had one against Leicester in the FA Cup when Sean.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, I couldn't. Yeah, I missed that one. Yeah,
and one against Sheffield Wednesday in the league. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, you got it. A second yellow in the 90th minute.
You do remember the lonely places in the change rooms afterwards. But no, something I obviously don't want to burden on the team is getting sent off. So.
For a man that gets manhandled a lot in the penalty area, I've seen you almost getting rugby league tackled at times in the as you're coming forward. So you must be a calm. How do you contain yourself? I mean, you must be a calm individual naturally. You seem so whenever I've heard you speak on TV.
Yeah, I think it's part of being big. I think I get manhandled wherever. I think in the mother club, the bouncers pick on me first because I'm the biggest. They want to chuck me out before anyone else. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just used to it. I just think it's part of the game. I do the same to the opposition players, and I'm getting wound up about it.
Yeah. I mean, it always strikes me how much treatment you get, and you don't seem to react to it. I take my hat off to it.
Yeah. It'd be nice if it was more clamped down on, but then again, we couldn't do the same when we're defending. So it's nice to.
I mean, maybe you can't answer this question, so forgive me, Max, who's sitting next to you. But I mean, do you feel that referees don't give you decisions because of you're a big man and you must be known around the scene as somebody that's going to come in and try and use his physicality? Do you think there's a touch of referees kind of erring against you? Maybe you can't answer that, so I better check with Max. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't like the referees come in and they say that they watch me and watch clips of how I defend and then how I attack, so they know. Yeah. They know the rules better than probably what I do, so I just unfortunately have to follow what they say.
That's very, very fairly put, mate. Well done. How many more questions am I allowed, Max?
You can have one more. Go on, one more.
One more. I was going to say, my other question I had to you, Jake, was the training routines. I've just been watching a clip actually on the club website.
Yeah.
Casper working at Calmont Road.
Casper around Europe. Who was that?
Like said it to kind of like a Euro beat. Actually, it was quite appropriate for him. I mean, do training methods differ from manager to manager? We've obviously got Alex Neil now. Is it a different vibe? Is it different things you're doing rather than say under Neil Harris, who you would have worked a lot with in the past? But is it a different kind of training setup now in that sense?
Yeah, completely. Obviously, all the managers had their own kind of ideas and their own training techniques with Harry and Neil and now Alex. I think the schedule is normally kind of passed on. I think kind of it's always stuck to kind of what days we train and when we kind of do gym and that around it. But Alex's training has definitely gone up in intensity wise. I think we've spent more time definitely on the training pitch, and we do a lot more probably tactical work than what we did before. So, things have changed around that, but you just adapt to the new kind of things. And then, like I say, it's always been kind of certain with our schedule what we're kind of doing when we're in, when we're off, and what time we're training and stuff has kind of stayed the same. So it's been easy to transition through the month.
I think your form this season has been excellent, and it's kind of noticeable. It's been a really strong season for you, in my opinion. Watching on, I wonder whether the training routine has helped with that in some ways.
Yeah, I think we've had our periods where we've been up and down, and it's kind of we've struggled at times to kind of regulate it and kind of put more wins together that we would have wanted to, but I think we're happy with the position we're in. Obviously, we would have loved to be in a better position at this stage of the season, but I think right now you could say we've been having a good season, and anything can kind of happen towards the end.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jake.
First of all, thanks, Max, for organising it, and Jake, thank you for giving up your time so generously doing this. It's really, really important to us. So, just so you know, I support Chris on Chat with Chaps podcast. And unfortunately, he can't do it today, so I'm in for him, unfortunately. First, I've got a number of questions, but I'll give everyone else a chance. I'm going to just do a couple, Max, if that's okay. And then if I've got a chance to go back again, I've got a couple more for you. But the first one I want to ask is, Jake, when you first joined Millwall in 2017, when Neil Harris was manager, I guess you were seen at the time as a bit of a no-nonsense defender, strong in the air, solid in the back. But playing under Alex Neil, we've sort of seen a different side to your game where you're becoming more of a kind of ball-playing defender now, and we're noticing that you're kind of picking out passes and playing through the lines. Yeah. Have you always known that you had that in your locker, or is that something that you feel that Alex Neil has kind of brought out of you or coached out of you through his coaching or giving you confidence and just install that confidence into you?
No, I always felt I was developed that way. Kind of, I came through the academy at Reading where it was an emphasis on playing out from the back. I had periods of time at Man United and played for England, obviously, as a young kid. So we were always taught how to play from the back and be comfortable on the ball at the back. So that was always a thing for me. And even playing at Reading, we used to dominate possession. So that was obviously a big part of my period growing up. Obviously, I'm big, and this big centre half can kind of get labelled. And Neil obviously we had a way of playing that was really effective at Millwall, and he wanted those more longer passes, especially with the likes of Morrison and Gregory, and we weren't going to waste time around the back. We were going to get forward to our best players. So that kind of got instilled in us as a team, and it was successful. So you had to keep, playing that way. And but yeah, since working with Alex, he's been great in that department. He's been demanding us more of defenders on the ball. So yeah, I've just been enjoying it and trying to keep improving like I always do.
Yeah, so I guess the point I was making is that you've always had that, like I said, in your armour, but it's, I guess, under certain managers you're playing a certain way where you're kind of a bit restricted in what you can do with the ball. Like you say, go a bit more long, go direct. Whereas would you say Alex Neil's kind of encouraging you to sort of play a little bit more through the lines and pick those passes, and it's kind of helped your game and brought it to another level?
Yeah, 100%. He's definitely introduced more of that. We had periods under Joe and that where it was totally about that, but now Alex is kind of not in between, because he wants us to dominate possession more than what we have done, but he kind of gives us the the passes and shows us tactically how it should kind of work around the opposition that we're playing against. So that kind of really helps us to find the passes that we know that he thinks that we should be playing, if that makes sense. So he kind of makes it easier for us for sure.
Yeah, well, look, it's really effective, and I think we can see it as fans spectating in live games. So keep doing it, mate. It's working anyway, which is good. Second question, I'll let the others get some questions in. Is just want to talk about your leadership and your experience. Obviously, being at the club such a long time, you've had to kind of evolve as a senior member of the squad, and obviously in the last sort of few years being a captain. Could you give us a bit of an insight into what your responsibilities are as a captain off the pitch? Because the majority of fans don't see it. They see what you do on the pitch, but not really what goes on off the pitch, and why they chose you obviously as a captain, and what your kind of day-to-day stuff is amongst the group.
Yeah, well, it's been quite nice for me actually this season with Hutchie being here. He does quite a lot of the stuff off the pitch, so I can kind of concentrate more on the pitch stuff. But when he's not here and like we have away games and stuff, it's all about, you know, taking control of the tickets, who gets the tickets. It's about, you know, how we're going to travel to games, things like that. And Hutchie does all the fines. You know, there's a period in pre-season when he obviously hadn't signed, so I was doing all the fines amongst the group. You know, have to go to the manager if the lads are, you know, struggling with something or they want something changing, or, you know, you go and ask the manager for things like that. And that's kind
on the fines bit, Jake. Sorry to interrupt you there. On the fines bit, is that something that you agree as the captains, or is that kind of shared amongst the group where you kind of all on board with it and you kind of agree on it? Or do you just?
It's kind of come through the since I joined, we had a fine system, and it's kind of progressed throughout the years. But we'll sit down every summer when we come back and go through it and think, is there anything we need to add, anything we take away? Like this year, I sat down with Neil Harris and went through it, and I said, are you happy with all these? Some of them he's like, what the fuck is that I'm doing on there?
Yeah.
But, you know, it's kind of just gone that way and progressed, and we kind of try and add new things each year to keep like lads kind of on their toes and something to kind of laugh about. And it's great, you know, keeping lads on top of things, but also just having a bit of fun in the change room.
Yeah, lovely, brilliant. I'll let the guys ask some questions now. Sorry, thanks a lot. Cheers.
So my first question is, joined the club in 2017, 8 years. It's a very long time. How did it come about coming to Millwall? Obviously, Neil Harris signed you, and is that right? That Jaap Stam was the manager at the time at Reading. Is that right?
Yeah, Jaap Stam there was bringing in a new centre half at Reading, and I kind of knew my time was done, so I was just playing in for the under-23s, and Neil came to the game up at Everton and liked what he saw, and the next day he was on the phone to my agent. It was a loan at that stage. It was in January, so I had a choice of like Swindon and Cheltenham, I think it was. And when Neil came in at Mill, was obviously a lot more exciting for me, and could see a potential of the team getting promoted. So that was my first ambition. He said I might not play because we had Hutchie and Byron Webster were the starting centre halves. He said they're my starting centre halves at the minute, but if one of them gets injured or there's an issue, then you'll play. And I turned up, Hutchie was injured straight away, so I got straight in, fortunately.
And also, I was going to ask, you know, in a time when players don't predominantly play 200-300 games for a club, what do you think that's kept you here for so long? You know, because as someone said earlier, you know, over 300 games for the club now. You've been here a long time. There must have been options in the past to leave.
Yeah,
but you must love being part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Probably the connection I had with Jimmy and obviously James before that obviously was a big part of it. You know, Steve Kavanagh and that when they was here were always pushing for me to be a big part of the football club. So they were huge parts of it. And I've just got on really well with all the managers here as well, and just loved kind of being a part of it. I think the club really fits me as a person and a player, to my style of playing, to my style of character. And it's kind of an underdog kind of mentality, I feel like, where we're always trying to do better than what is kind of expected of us, and that just feels like that's part of me, and I really enjoy that.
Is it fair to say, you know, when you joined us, you was relatively unknown, so it was, I mean, looking back now, I think it was like £400,000 in where it's paid? So
It's like
along those lines, something like, I mean, for us to get the service we've got out here for as long as we have, it's absolutely brilliant business. But did you think it was, you know, had you been on loan before? Did you think maybe, you know, can I get to the championship level quickly?
No, I hadn't been anywhere. I just played 50 games at Reading. So I've only played for Millwall and in a Reading shirt when I was younger. And to be honest, I wouldn't have had it any other way. Going on all these loans and stuff works for some players, but you know, just staying here and trying to, you know, progress the club and trying to achieve something. I feel like we have that ambition every summer. We're trying to achieve something. It's obviously really difficult in the Championship, but I think this club to be in the Championship now for 8 years, I think it is in a row, is something that maybe didn't happen in the past, and we obviously want to keep progressing that and trying to reach that next level is the hardest bit. But I think they have good ambitions here, and they'll keep trying to push it forward.
Lovely. Cheers, mate.
Good afternoon, Jake. You all right? Micky Simpson, That Real Podcast. My questions are slightly different because obviously didn't know where we were going to be in the line, and with the other guys on, I knew that there'd be quite football. So I've done a little bit of research into you, and a couple of questions are more regarding you, not necessarily within Millwall, more about you as a person and whatnot. So my first question to you is, Max has got a picture which he'll show you at some point. How does it feel? Obviously, you're now coming into the Millwall history books and you're firmly implanted into Millwall. How does it feel that you're in the history books of the Forest School for the under 9 or the under 14s year 9 national final? You scoring in the semi-final, and obviously then getting to the finals at Old Trafford and taking about 6 to 8 coaches of your school to Old Trafford for the day to watch you play in the final, which obviously you lost. But how did that build into where you are today?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know where you dig that out from, but that's good.
Oh, you see, I've got friends at Reading, so yeah.
No, that I actually got scouted from that game into Reading. So that Old Trafford game, I was actually kind of at a lull with football at that age. I think I'd given, you know, I'd been at academies all over, you know, West London and the west side of the country, and given everything a go. And I was like, you know, they get to that teenage years, and I was kind of rebelling a little bit. But then we had that at school, so we got to the final at Man United, and I think it was the Man United scout rang Reading and said, like, why haven't you got this guy? So I came into Reading then the next week, and it kind of made me. They signed me then a couple of weeks after that, and I was kind of made my career. Yeah, and school was fun, and it was great journey with that football team, the group of lads, and yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, no, I won't go into some of the players because I've heard some stories with some of the players there and whatnot, some descriptions and stuff. But my second question follows on from there. Obviously, you got scouted from there and got into the Reading youth team, and then obviously the rest is history where you are today. How much of a rebuild for you on a character level? Obviously, when Jaap Stam came in, he decided that he didn't necessarily trust you, and he didn't think that you'd fit into the Dutch style of football, what you wanted to play. And to take that much heartbreak as such, where you've been in there from the youth, to suddenly bring it forward to where you are now, you're a firm part of Millwall. You are in their history books forever and a day. Does it feel some form of justification to prove potentially one of the best defenders in the world wrong, that actually made the wrong decision on you?
Maybe it did in the first couple of years. But I was just saying, everyone in football kind of has an opinion, and I think he liked me as a person, just didn't really see me fitting in his playing style. And you know, I didn't really understand at that stage either. I was young and I didn't really grasp it. Even when I came to Millwall, that first kind of when we got promoted, I didn't understand what that kind of meant to the club and to the players, even the more senior players. But now, obviously, coming in, and like if there was promotion here now, it would kind of be the biggest part of our careers. So, and that probably one of the biggest moments of my career. And I just didn't understand that was going to be at the age of 20, 21. And you know, it takes some learning to kind of grasp that that's what football is kind of about, and creating moments like that. And and yeah, I don't hold grudges with them. There's no point. It's been a blessing for me coming to this club and the life I've now built for myself, my family. So it's just I look forward and upwards and enjoy the career I've got now.
I agree with you. It's always better looking forward than thinking about what went on. But it was just interesting to see. Obviously, if that hadn't happened, you wouldn't have probably been here now. You could have ended up seeing your career out at Reading or potentially other ways. So it's just interesting how things work out. And now, as Nick said on his first question, you're within the top 10 of Millwall players for appearance, which is a remarkable achievement on its own.
I know what my answer to this would be. What's your favourite goal that you've scored for us? Which one stands out in your mind as the best?
I always think of the Sheffield United away one with my foot, not my head.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that one. I think that'll always be burning memory in the last minute for a winning goal like that. Yeah, it's undeniable.
Didn't you score at Charlton as well? Did you coming down the left wing?
Yeah.
This was one of my favourite moments ever.
If that was COVID, that would have been unbelievable, that moment. Fortunately, with no fans there, it didn't quite feel the same.
No.
Charlton, the last minute winner would have been full out.
That's right.
COVID took that away from me, unfortunately, but it was a good moment.
It was one of my favourites.
Yeah, just to end off, really. Obviously, this season's been sort of full of ups and downs. I guess from a player's perspective, what do you think has been the biggest challenge for the squad this season? How do you see the rest of the season playing out?
Well, good question. Well, we started obviously with the challenge with losing Mattia. Obviously, it was crazy, to back that up. Last year, losing John. So it's just been like that, and then obviously Neil left us. That was probably the biggest challenge of the season, I would say. I think he was a legend amongst the group. I think that was where we've now at this position where we're having kind of these chats, kind of where it feels like the fans kind of broke down with the kind of communication with him, and he kind of didn't feel happy, so things changed, and yeah, that was probably difficult because that we went on a period then. I think it was 12 or 14 games where it was a difficult performance-wise, and now we've kind of picked it up back under Alex. So yeah, it's never easy. Obviously, losing a legend like Neil, he was so loved by the players, and yeah, we had to rebuild from that.
I guess just end that question off, how do you see the rest of the season panning out? You got the confidence you sort of thinking about? I mean, realistically, playoffs is very, very tough to aim for, but do you have the confidence to kind of keep winning and keep playing it out? Mentality at the moment amongst the group.
You're telling me off. Yeah, I think 8 games. I think, realistically, if you look at it, I think we probably have to win 6 out of 8. I think.
It's hard. It's like 21 points, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not impossible. Coventry went on a great run recently. They won 9 out of 10. It's not impossible. It's obviously a great starter point for us going to Sunderland on Saturday. What can we do? It's a big game for us. If we can win that, then it puts us in a great position.
But it's just nice looking up rather than looking down, isn't it? So where it is, yeah. Good luck for the rest of the season. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so just quickly then, Coops, your favourite. Not favourite, just a little bit about your centre-back partnerships. We had Byron Webster on the show, and he said that you travelled to the Wembley game, back to the hotel on Boris bikes.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you about that story after we beat Bradford.
Yeah, we just got off the coach because he wanted McDonald's more than me, and I was kind of there to help him and follow him, and we got a McDonald's, and we was about 5 miles, I think, from the hotel, so we had to get on the Boris bikes, and it was full of traffic, so we had a great time cycling through London. So you want to know the centre halves that I've enjoyed playing with?
Centre half you play with Byron, Hutch, and obviously the fans currently would love to know a bit about what Jaff's like, because he just looks cool as ice. Do you know what I mean, on the pitch?
Yeah, Jaffet's been unbelievable to play with. I think he complements my whole game, and I think he's in the Premier League level, I think, and he's certainly a joy to play alongside, and but like the others, I've enjoyed my time with Hutch and with Webby before that, and yeah, it's I think at the minute I've got a great relationship with Jaff, and hopefully we can keep building on that.
A lot of clean sheets across the 3 partnerships as well, throw in the mix.
Yeah, a lot of goalkeepers in there helping us out as well, don't forget. When we run into each other.
Achtung, Millwall.
There you go, dear listeners. Hope you enjoyed that. Really nice conversation organised by Max McLennan of the club with Jake Cooper, club captain. The voices you would have heard would be me, would be Joe from Chat with Chaps. It would be Micky from That Millwall podcast, and of course Dan from Lions TV. Do check all of the shows out. All great content, as we've said. And I want to say a big thank you to the club for organising it, and also to the boys for taking part in a communal conversation with in the right spirit, in good heart. And that's to everyone's credit involved in that. So big thank you to everyone. That's the end of the show, dear listeners. We will be back, I hope, on Monday. I'm going to try and get hold of Merv to react to the Sunderland result. Let's keep our fingers crossed it's a win. We shall see. So fingers crossed till then. Till the next edition, dear listeners. Big thank you for tuning in. From me, Nick Hart, it's Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.